Good morning, class. Welcome in. This is our first world history lecture, and I hope you had a nice weekend. But I want to get into it. I want to jump into it. We are kicking off this year talking about civilizations and kind of what defines a civilization. So I want to get into this. You're going to see my eyes move back and forth. I have a second computer to help me out. So I'm going to use two screens here. I'm going to get through the lecture. There's also going to be some follow-up questions, which are what I'm going to consider journal logs. 10 points, super easy. I just want a nice detailed response. There's going to be 5 little questions. Each of these questions were 2 points, 10 points on the journal log. So that'll be available on the assignments tab. I'm going to let you guys know when those are due, okay, when we talk in our Zoom session. All right, here we go. So let's take a look at civilizations. Okay, so to cultivate land and produce extra crops, all right, ancient people began establishing their own irrigation system. So they are starting to create space, they're starting to add water, and what is this going to do? And honestly, again, society is starting to evolve, is starting to emerge, starting to adapt. This is going to create a surplus of food, a lot of food, okay? So what does this do? All right, a surplus of food is going to allow people to venture into other jobs and skills. Individuals are going to learn how to create products such as pottery, metal objects, and cloth. People also started trading these products, and this allowed a broader exchange for crafts, grains, and raw materials. Okay, the wheel and the sail allowed traders to move more goods over long distances. So we talk about technology. Okay, we talk about creativity, we talk about innovation, we talk about this spark of thought to make things easier. Okay, the wheel is going to be huge for transportation. The sail along the seaboard and the sea lines and ocean lines are going to be important for trading. Okay, so we're starting to see humans adapt, starting to expand a little bit, and then we're going to start seeing a lot of movement by peoples in these ancient times. Okay, we'll also start to see a lot of social change. A more prosperous economy affected the social structure of social life as well. With these new irrigation systems, again, remember, we're going to talk about successful civilizations being found along a waterbed. It's going to require a ton of new labor. As you know, and labor is the workforce. People who work, and they're going to work, and really not receive much for their efforts. Especially back then, again, you would see rewards typically being, food, drink, maybe shelter. So those necessities. As groups of workers began to emerge, this is where we start seeing the first social classes that are going to kind of set themselves as we start seeing a variety of wealth and power. During the Old Stone Age, you're going to see religion center around nature, around animal spirits, and some form of the afterlife. During the New Stone Age, however, farming communities began to worship multiple gods that had power over the wind, that had power over rain, that had power over the sun. So now all of a sudden, instead of just looking at nature or maybe an animal in particular, they're starting to look into the skies, they're starting to look into these forces of nature, and they're starting to affiliate that with certain gods. Okay, so we start seeing what we're going to get into known as polytheism, multiple gods. Okay, so there are 5 major things we want to talk about on this first discussion on how civilizations develop. So a civilization is going to be defined with 5 main characteristics. The first is advanced cities. Okay, the second is specialized workers. The third is complex institutions. All right, the fourth is record keeping, and the fifth is advanced technology. All right, historians often observe the Sumerians as one of the earliest civilizations because of all 5 of these traits. They were able to handle and have all 5 of these traits. But let's take a look at each of them individually. Okay, so let's start with advanced cities. All right, so cities are the first component to a civilization. Now, it's more than just a group of people living together. All right, it's more than just, because remember, you have to think about it this way. Okay, with a lot of hunters and gatherers, what are they doing? They're moving from place to place. They're nomadic. They don't have a set in stone home. Okay, so they're moving from place to place, getting the resources that they need to survive. When you're setting up shop in a city, it's a little bit different. Okay, Now, the main difference between a village and a city is the amount of trade that goes through a city. All right, the more goods, the more farmers, the more merchants, the more traders that are being brought in. These are characteristics that are going to classify a city. So essentially, the more folks that are in, the more business that's being conducted. That's where we start seeing a shift from it being a village to a city. Okay. Now, as cities grew, you're going to need specialized workers. All right. These included traders, government workers, priests, people that have a specific job that they basically did every single day. Okay. So with so much food around, remember, irrigation systems allowing to plant crops, all the food, you're going to see opportunity for specialization, and it's going to lead to a development of specific kinds of jobs. All right, artisans, people who are skilled in making goods by hand, are starting to emerge. Some of these skills are going to include pottery, jewelry, clothing, and making metal tools and weapons. All right, the wide range of crafts are going to help these cities become centers for trade. All right, so again, the more people you have that have new skills, that's going to allow more business and it's going to allow more prosperity. Complex institutions. All right, with populations rising, a need for government structures was necessary. So you have law that needs to be put in place. So laws are needed. People have to have some form of control because otherwise it's anarchy. Otherwise things are hectic. Otherwise people are killing and looting and doing things on their own accord. They're doing it without any kind of restriction. So we start seeing laws being put into place. Okay. Laws were needed, and you start seeing various forms of government. And then you're going to start seeing power struggles. You're going to start seeing people that are happy with government and other people that are not happy with government. And that's, kind of carries into today. So these governments are considered a complex institution. They are long-lasting organizations within a community. So religion, economics, and government are going to be the three main forms of these institutions. All right. So the best example, again, the Sumerians. All right. This is an early civilization. They are going to put all of their faith, and they believe that their cities that they created belong to a god, okay? And they would go to a house of worship, all right? And that is going to be a complex institution. All right, record keeping. This is important, okay? Keeping stats, keeping information. As cities and their institutions grew, a need for record keeping was essential. So governments would document taxes. So, taxes were way back then as a concept. So taxes are imposed on citizens. Merchants are going to track their trades. They're going to keep a tab of what they've been doing, how much they've been trading, how much they've been receiving. And then priests are going to start keeping calendars for important rituals. All right. A system of writing had to be established, something that everyone could recognize and everyone could learn. Okay. You're going to start seeing scribes as one of those specialized skilled workers. They're going to be professional record keepers. In Sumeria, all right, for the Sumerians, cuneiform was prominent. This term meant wedge-shaped, all right? And this is where we start seeing a series of pictographs, all right? Symbols of objects that they were discussing. All right, so you start seeing symbols that are representing nature. They're starting to represent animals. They're starting to represent other humans. All of this is almost like a coded language for people to understand and recognize. Okay, so record keeping, keeping a history, that's going to define a civilization. All right, lastly, improved technology. As time goes on, new technological methods are needed to solve problems. Okay, for example, farmers used oxen to plow their fields to save on energy and manpower. Irrigation systems, all right, for planting crops and helping crops grow, are going to really expand the planting areas along those riverbeds where you started to see tons and tons of food collected and harvested. Okay, the Bronze Age, all right, is going to be a dramatic shift, all right, using bronze instead of copper and stone to create tools and weapons. So these tools and weapons become more efficient, the weapons become more deadly, and you're starting to see, again, mankind always finding, new ways to kill one another. And that's another thing that we talk about with advancing in technology. You have all the positives, you have all the benefits, but you also have some of the drawback as well. Okay? All right, let's take a look at a particular civilization, the Ur civilization. The Ur civilization is going to be one of the earliest civilizations in the area of Sumer. All right, it is located on the banks of the Euphrates River. This is in modern-day Iraq. So Mesopotamia, Tigris-Euphrates River. You may have heard of this area. This is kind of the cradle of civilization. Um, After being excavated in the 20th century, archaeologists and historians determined that was a thriving urban metropolis. Okay, was chiefly an agricultural society, so they based everything off their food. They also had a bustling trade market. They were able to get tons of people from all these locations that would trade with some of the goods that they were producing. All right, often a system of bartering was conducted. So, what is bartering? Okay, think about this. So, bartering again is going to be a situation where we have goods exchanged, all right, without the use of currency. No money, no gold, no silver. So, bartering, it's like you go to your lunch. All right, you got a PB and J sandwich. You got a really good peanut butter and jelly, and your buddy next to you has a bag of Cheetos. All right, instead of exchanging cash to swap the items, you are just going to say, hey, I'll trade you my PB and J for that bag of Cheetos. Okay, that's bartering. All right. Is also going to be known for the ziggurats. All right, the ziggurats are these massive, huge temples. Remember, complex institutions. These massive temples, they would send people to sacrifice to their gods. They would store food and goods, and they would conduct burial rituals. So they would bury their dead in these ziggurats. All right. So there's a really good picture of a modern ziggurat, and it looks like something out of a sci-fi film. It looks like it could be, if you're looking at maybe seeing the movie Dune, it looks like something out of Dune. All right, but these are actually real. These are out in the Middle East. These ziggurats, they still have stood the test of time. But these are early forms of place of worship, place to store crops, and conduct burials for those that pass away. Okay? All right, hey, I don't want to keep things too long. We'll go between 12 to 15 minutes. That's right where we're at. This is going to be available on Canvas. It goes right along with our world history slides. So I want to make sure you guys are all on top of that. But that's our first one in the books. Take a look at the journal log. Take a look at those questions. All right, and we'll go from there. All right, looking forward to seeing you guys at the Zoom this week. And we will start our first project, by the way. We're going to start talking about that Thursday and Friday for world history. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.